Welcome to Mickey, Marvel, and More, Disney news, commentary, and opinion. From theme parks to Thanos and from Skywalker to Skyliner, my family and I will discuss it all. So let's go.
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
Hello, Mark here, and welcome to another episode of Mickey, Marvel, and More. And this isn't just some run-of-the-mill episode of Mickey, Marvel, and More. Oh, no. It's a milestone episode. Welcome to episode number 10. That's right, number 10. We've made it to number 10. I was doing some reading the other day about podcasting, and the article said most podcasts don't make it to their 7th episode. So, you're telling me there's a chance. That's right, we've beaten the odds. Well, maybe I should have purchased a lottery ticket instead? I don't know. Seriously, though, it's because of all the support and encouragement we've been getting from everybody who listens that keeps us going. So a big thank you to everybody who listens. To celebrate the 10th episode, we've decided to do something fun. In today's family chat, Laura and I are going to have a really fun discussion about the top 10 overlooked hidden gems in Walt Disney World. You see what I did there? 10th episode, top 10. It seems like we planned it with some sort of synergy. But before we go any further, we've got some listener mail.
What message? The one you've just been playing. The one you're carrying inside your rusty innards.
Today's listener mail references a conversation that Zach and I had in the family chat a few episodes ago about the state of Disney Pixar animation. This email comes from Lauren. It says here she's a longtime listener, first-time writer. And then she says, I want to start off by saying I really enjoy the podcast. As a Diz nerd or Disney adult, okay, Diz nerd, I like that. I'm going to use that one. I appreciate the news that I might have missed and the interesting family conversations. I often forget that I'm listening to a podcast and not having a personal conversation with friends. Well, thanks for that compliment. I really appreciate that. That's what we're going for here. And then she says, I feel like there's been a lot of pressure on Walt Disney Animation to always have a Frozen or an Encanto level movie. Well, I think that is true. And she says that we as fans have also put a lot of undue pressure on the new movies to come out to always be these kind of blockbusters. Well, I definitely agree with that, and I do feel that I am somewhat guilty of that as well. And then she talks about some of the other releases that have come out and kind of not been reviewed very well or fallen off the radar and nobody really knows what they're about. And in particular, she wants to talk about the movie Wish and give it a good defense. She believes that Wish and other recent Disney Pixar films are getting unfair treatment, and she wants to focus on Wish because she thinks there is an undue amount of dissatisfaction with this film. Number one, she says, Disney did not promote this movie properly. There's a lot of very vague content pushed out there about the movie, and no one truly knew what the storyline would be. 100% agree with that. Number two, we're expecting all Disney animated movies to be life-changing every time, and that was not the point of this movie. Wish was simple. It was just a love letter to Walt and the legacy he has created. Number three, she says, the movie was beautifully made. The music and songs were matched to the characters well and also had nods to past Disney animated films. Number four, she says the movie was simplistic and meant to be a love letter, and the Easter eggs were plentiful. All in all, Wish was a love letter to Walt and his fans. I wish, no pun intended, people would go see Wish for what it was, a simply good movie. You know what, Lauren? I couldn't agree more. Laura recently watched this film, and she very much enjoyed it. I have not seen it yet, but I intend to watch it now for sure. And as a postscript in her little message, she says that The Emperor's New Groove is the best movie ever. No one can change my mind. You know what, Lauren? I 100% agree with that one as well. Luckily, we didn't crush Lauren's email with a hammer.
Oh, I know. I'll turn him into a flea. A harmless little flea. And then I'll put that flea in a box. And then I'll put that box inside of another box. And then I'll mail that box to myself. And when it arrives, I'll smash it with a hammer!
Thanks so much, Lauren, for that very thoughtful and insightful email. And just like we heard from Lauren, we would like to hear from you too. If you want to add to the conversation of one of our family chats, or maybe just share an opinion about one of our news stories, or just ask a question about Disney, Marvel, or I suppose you could also ask about more as well, just send an email to Mickey, Marvel, and More, all one word, at gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. Before we get to our family chat about the top 10 underrated gems in Walt Disney World, it's time for some news from in and around the Disneyverse.
If you are standing, please hold on to the handrails and stay clear of the doors. The monorail will depart momentarily. Thank you.
First up, we've got a follow-up to the story to the Disney DAS program. As a reminder, DAS, or DAS, stands for Disability Access Service. This is a service that helps people with disabilities navigate the lines when going to Walt Disney World or Disneyland. Recently, the Disney company has made changes to this policy to clarify just who qualifies for DAS and who doesn't. One of the big reasons for this change was because that people that didn't actually need the service were abusing the system so they could skip the lines. Essentially, DAS works as sort of a fast pass type scenario that gives you a return time for an attraction or an experience that would be equal to your wait in line without actually having to wait in the line. In the past, you made a phone call to Disney and had a discussion with a cast member about your condition or the conditions of one of your family members, and then that cast member would decide whether you qualified for DAS or not. Another part of the problem with the previous system is that the wording for the qualifications was really rather vague and didn't specifically say who exactly would qualify. Disney has now changed that and specifically says that the service is only for people with a developmental disability such as autism or similar disorder who would have difficulty tolerating extended waits and a conventional environment due to this disability. Since the new policy was put in place, many people online are complaining that they used to qualify for DAS, but now they don't. Many people that use a wheelchair, for example, that used to qualify for the service are now told that Disney has reworked many of the queue lines and made them larger and that they now can accommodate wheelchairs, so the DAS pass isn't needed. Disney has teamed up with a company called Health Alliance to help the cast members determine eligibility. It works by scheduling a video call to talk to a cast member and then a health professional to determine your eligibility. You can now enroll 120 days in advance, but it has reduced the size of your party to only 4 guests. So what does that mean for larger families? Well, Disney says they will address that in a case-by-case basis, but it seems like Disney is going to stick to this 4-person policy. I saw a story online the other day that talked about a mother and her daughter who frequently travel to Walt Disney World. The daughter takes a medication which causes her to need to use the restroom quite often. They used to qualify for DAS, but now they don't. The mother was told about their new return to queue system, which says if you need to leave the line, you'll be given a pass and be able to return to where you were in the line without having to wait for that time period again. The mom told the cast member that they generally travel with just the 2 of them, so who would be waiting in line for them when they returned? The cast member didn't have an answer. And at the end of the conversation, she was told if she truly can't wait in line, perhaps she should use the Disney's paid service Genie Plus to help accommodate their needs. Well, as you can imagine, that did not go over well with the mother. Take a look in the show notes to an article that I've linked there, and it talks about the problems that many people have been facing since the new system was put in place. Read their stories and see what you think. My hope is that this is early days for this new system, and hopefully Disney can tweak it and make it more inclusive for those who actually need the program. This really feels like it's become a new third rail for Disney. We'll keep you posted with further updates.
Will somebody get this big walking carpet out of my way?
Well, toxic Star Wars fans have struck again. The new Disney Plus Star Wars show, The Acolyte, has apparently been review bombed on Rotten Tomatoes' website. For those that don't know, Rotten Tomatoes is a website that aggregates all of the reviews for movies and television shows, and using that information gives the films and programs a percentage review from professional critics and a separate percentage number for fan reviews. As of the recording of this podcast, The Acolyte has an 84% positive reviews from critics. but it only has a 15% positive review from fans. So you may say, okay, people just don't like this project. While I feel that some of it might be true, the fact that these reviews happen so fast, it clearly seems to be a negative review bombing scenario. To give you an example, the television show Ahsoka only has a total of 5,000 reviews on Rotten Tomatoes after being out for several months. But The Acolyte, that has only aired 3 episodes in 2 weeks, now has 10,000 reviews, the majority being 1 star. That definitely seems a little sus. This isn't the first time that Rotten Tomatoes has had to deal with negative review bombing. After what happened with all the reviews for the movie Captain Marvel, Rotten Tomatoes instituted a policy where you have to verify that you have actually seen the movie to submit a review. The problem is, with television shows and streaming, it just isn't possible. While I'm quite sure there are people that don't like the new show, The Acolyte, there's no way that all of those reviews could be legit. Well, I haven't seen the show yet, and I definitely have a history of being a Star Wars apologist, so I will probably like it. But I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. Star Wars fans are the best and worst all at the same time. Come on, Star Wars fans. We can do better.
It's all me pals. Stepping time. Stepping time. Stepping time. Stepping time. Stepping time. Stepping time.
And finally, Dick Van Dyke, who was made a Disney legend in 1998, has just made history. At the 51st Daytime Emmy Awards last week, Dick Van Dyke became the oldest winner of a Daytime Emmy Award at 98 years old. Dick Van Dyke has been in the business for 80 years. 80 years, can you believe that? Not only was he Bert in the 1964 Disney film Mary Poppins, but he was also in the 1966 Disney movie Lieutenant Robin Crusoe. He also had parts in The Golden Girls and Disney's 1990 Warren Beatty flick, Dick Tracy. He's also hosted several documentaries that Disney has produced over the years. After his Emmy Award for his work on the soap opera Days of Our Lives last week, Dick Van Dyke had this to say. I feel like a spy from nighttime television. I was the oldest nominee in history. I can't believe it. I was playing old men all my life. If I had known I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care of myself. We at Mickey, Marvel, and More salute you, Mr. Van Dyke.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are approaching our station at the entrance to Main Street, USA, gateway to the 7 theme lands of the Magic Kingdom.
All right, welcome to our 10th family chat in our milestone 10th episode of Mickey, Marvel, and More. Today we're going to sit down and talk about overlooked experiences in Walt Disney World that we consider to be hidden gems. It's a top 10 list, but they're not in any particular order. And to help us out, my wife Laura is here.
Hi, I like what you did with the top 10 list to celebrate our 10th episode.
I know, I've been pushing 10 the entire episode, so that hopefully that works out well. So we're going to take a look at some experiences that I think a lot of people just overlook, or in some cases may not even know are there. And again, top 10, but not in any particular order. I'm going to start us off. So everybody knows that there is the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique, where you can go get dressed up as a princess and spend all day dressed up as a princess. But did you know you can get your hair cut on Main Street, USA in a turn-of-the-century barbershop called the Harmony Barbershop? They say that reservations are recommended. This isn't a free thing, so the child's haircut will be $20. If you want to get the My First Haircut experience, that's $28. They'll give you commemorative Mickey ears, keepsake lock of hair, and an official milestone certificate. Hey, there's that word milestone again. An adult haircut is $21, and a beard trim is only $8. Do you think you'd like to get your beard trimmed at the Harmony Barbershop on Main Street, USA?
If I've got a beard that needs to be trimmed at a barbershop, we're both in trouble.
I think that may be the case. What's next on our list, kid?
Well, the next thing that we put on our top 10 hidden gems is one that's near and dear to my heart. It's the Voices of Liberty a cappella group that performs daily at the American Adventure Pavilion. So if you've ever been inside the American Adventure Pavilion in Epcot, it is not just a nice place to get some serious air conditioning.
Although it is a nice place to get serious air conditioning.
Yes. But more than that, there is an a cappella group that performs 7 times a day that will perform in that big rotunda that serves as the lobby for the film experience. We've seen them perform multiple times over the years, and I always forget in between times how good they are and how much fun that show is. I mean, of course, they are top of the line a cappella singers.
Of course.
But the songs that they choose and the performance is just top tier every single time. Plus, the performance in the rotunda gives that super great echo.
Oh yeah, the reverb.
Oh my gosh. So the acoustics are amazing.
It is. And the shows are only about 15 minutes long, but it's something that's free. It's air conditioned, which is great in Central Florida. Plus, it's a really fun show. All right, next up on the list is the Star Wars data pad. Now, what this consists of is if you go into Galaxy's Edge and you've downloaded on your phone the Play Disney Parks mobile app, you can use this to go around to different locations in Galaxy's Edge and scan these QR codes. And it will activate sound effects. It'll give you badges in the app. It'll turn the engine on the A-Wing fighter. It'll turn a satellite dish on at Rise of the Resistance. It's a really fun scavenger hunt. So if you've got a little one who maybe is big enough to understand Rise of the Resistance, but maybe scared of the unknown, and the same thing with Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run, and they're just too scared to ride it, whoever is hanging out with them while everybody else rides, this will give you guys something to do, as opposed to just standing around in a shop and waiting for the kid to say, I want that, I want that, I want that. Give them your phone and have this app on there, and they can go on a scavenger hunt. And trust me, I remember when Parker was little, he loved doing this. And I don't think we ever totally completed it because there are a lot of places to look for. And what's really fun is for the kid to hunt it out. Or heck, maybe just as an adult, you want to do this. Trust me, it's a fun experience and it's free. Now, this one, of course, does not contain air conditioning, but it is free. What's up next?
Next, we're hopping over to Animal Kingdom for one of the overlooked experiences there. And that is taking the Wildlife Express train to Rafiki's Planet Watch. Rafiki's Planet Watch is a really fun section of Animal Kingdom that just not a lot of people go to, probably because it requires you to take the train to get over there. And that's the only way that you can visit Planet Watch. In Planet Watch, they have an area called the Affection Section, which is a petting zoo. And has all kinds of fun animals for adults and kids to interact with. They also have Habitat, which is an outdoor discovery trail. And there's Conservation Station and the Animal Care Facility, which is a really neat behind-the-scenes look at some of the animal care activities that the Disney professionals are doing behind the scenes at Animal Kingdom. They will often have information about newly born animals in Animal Kingdom and a lot of really interesting information about the animals that live there.
Yeah, and I remember in times past, they may actually be caring for an animal right there. If it's the team of veterinarians right there, it's a huge glassed-in, I guess it's a doctor's office for animals, essentially. It's a veterinary clinic. And you can see them sometimes caring for an animal, or they will have on the screen a video of some care that they did for an animal. And oftentimes you will have some of the veterinary staff walking around inside the building with a small animal that you can actually go up and see, a turtle or a frog. And sometimes they'll have a snake in a box you can go look at. I don't think you'd want to touch it necessarily, but it is very interesting because they will also, give you information about the animal. And again, another air-conditioned location. So if you're picking up on a theme here, as a family, we seek out air conditioning in Florida. I think that anybody in Florida in the summer will seek out air conditioning. So next up on the list, we've got the Disney Presents, which was formerly called One Man's Dream. This is in Hollywood Studios. It is essentially a museum to Walt Disney. It's got one-of-a-kind sketches, artwork, costumes from movies and TV shows, many models, like little tiny models of Disney theme parks and attractions all over the world. There is a 15-minute documentary showcasing the life and times of Walt Disney called Walt Disney's One Man's Dream. And I've got to say, this is a really neat museum. We've spent a lot of time in there. And if you read all of the information on the walls, not only will you learn a lot, but you'll be there for quite a long time because there's a lot of stuff to look at.
There's a lot of information really about the history of animation.
Oh, yeah.
Because Walt Disney was such a pioneer in that area. They have a look at the multiplane camera that he was so famous for. Some early audio animatronic.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Things. And I think Walt's desk has even been a part of that exhibit from time to time.
Yeah, sometimes it goes between there and Disneyland, but often it is there. Yeah, as with the animatronics, they've got a Lincoln from Disneyland where it's like split down the middle, and you can see where all the gears and gizmos are on the inside to keep it operating. And it's really, really neat and gives you a look at just how intricate this thing was, you know, even in the 1960s. So that was pretty impressive. What's up next?
So we're staying in Hollywood Studios for the next one too. And this is something that you could literally walk by.
Right.
And I'm talking about the handprints and footprints that are in front of the replica of Grauman's Chinese Theater, which is where Minnie and Mickey's Runaway Railway is currently located.
Right.
So that building, as you know, that houses that attraction is a replica of the Grauman's Chinese Theater that's such a famous landmark in Hollywood, California. There are handprints and footprints in cement of various celebrities. And because this is an attraction that is literally on the ground, you don't see it from afar, and you don't even necessarily see it from the queue area for the ride. You really have to know it's there and walk over and take a look at it. But if you do, I mean, it's well worth the time. There's some really fun handprints and footprints over there that are sort of a time capsule to Disney celebrities of days past. So, for example, original Mouseketeer Annette Funicello, C-3PO and R2-D2, Tom Cruise, Jim Henson and Kermit the Frog, Michael Jackson, Robin Williams, Betty White, and of course, Mickey Mouse.
Well, you couldn't have a tribute to the celebrities in Disney without having a tribute to the mouse himself. But also something interesting that I think you pointed out when we were putting this list together, that some of these have kind of crumbled or have fallen in disrepair, and they've removed them and they've not replaced them with anything. So something tells me when these just start to deteriorate, they're just going to be gone, and they'll just put regular concrete down there. So do yourself a favor and go check this out in front of the Chinese Theater at Hollywood Studios, because this may not be around forever. So up next, we're going to go over to Magic Kingdom. And on Main Street, I don't know if you've ever noticed this before, but on the windows, not only does it have the businesses, but there's also a name up there all the way down Main Street, from the train station all the way down to the hub in front of the castle. Each window has a name on it, and these are names of important Imagineers, important animators, and important people in the history of Disney and the Disney theme parks. So it's really neat to see references to these people, and sometimes the business itself that they're making fun of or talking about, it applies to the person. And in our show notes, I'm going to put a list to a Wikipedia article that has the list of all of the names in Disneyland's Main Street USA and Magic Kingdom's Main Street USA. So they've got tons of people, and if you've got a little bit of spare time, and it's a nice cool day, take a walk in this little list and see how many of them you can locate.
Yeah, it's a real honor for Imagineers
Oh,
to
yeah.
be honored with a window on Main Street USA.
It is.
And for Disney super fans or even just casual fans, I think it's a fun time to spend a little time walking along Main Street, identifying some of those people, and reading up on what their contribution was to the Disney parks. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, it's a really big deal. And whenever they unveil a new one of these, they treat it like a star on the Walk of Fame. They have a whole big celebration and a camera crew there, but it's something really, really neat.
Mm-hmm.
What's up next?
So now we're going to hop back over to Epcot. And this is another thing that I think a lot of people just walk past or don't realize that you can go inside. This is in the Norway section of World Showcase. And this is the Stave Church. This is the sort of Viking-looking church that is right along the walkway up towards the front of the Norway Pavilion.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think people don't realize that you can actually go inside that building and see what's in there. As I think we've mentioned, an ongoing theme of ours, it is air conditioned
That's
in there.
right.
So a nice way to spend maybe 15, 20 minutes in some nice AC.
For sure.
But they actually have a mini museum inside the Stave Church of Viking lore. So they have a lot of Norwegian artifacts inside and information about the historical origins of Viking legends that may be familiar to Marvel fans. So here's a few names that might ring a bell.
Okay.
Odin,
Oh, yes.
Freya, Thor, Loki. These were not just names that Hollywood came up with. They actually have historical origins in Viking folklore. And inside the Stave Church in Epcot in Norway, you can see a little museum dedicated to those Norwegian legends.
People just assume that Stan Lee just made all these characters up.
Right.
And, and then Disney adapted them for the big screen. No. These were all Norse legends and Norse gods. And yeah, this is a very easily overlooked experience because it just looks like it's part of the building complex, and it doesn't look like it's anything other than just set dressing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's right there at the front, right off of the main drag, and it's right at the entrance of the main Norway Pavilion Boulevard that goes all the way back to the Frozen Ever After ride. So be sure to check that out. Do yourself a favor. It's something really, really cool. And speaking of cool, do you see what I did there?
I see what you did there.
We're going to go to the front section of Epcot for this one. It's a place called Club Cool. Now, this has been around for several years at Epcot, and it's recently gone through another makeover now that they've redone the entire area there in the front. But it may just look like a Coca-Cola store or just a merchandise location, but it's way more than that. On the inside of this building, there are free Coke dispensers from sodas that Coke produces all over the world for different countries.
Mm-hmm.
And you can take a little sample cup and you can try each and every one of them or mix them together. There are all kinds of cool flavors from China, from Norway, from different places. And the most famous one of all there is called the Beverly. Would you like to address the Beverly?
The Beverly is like death in a cup. The flavors at Club Cool will sometimes change from time to time, but the
Sure.
Beverly, I think, has been a mainstay. What country does the Beverly come from?
I believe it's Italy, and I believe it is meant to be a palate cleanser.
Yeah,
to be used in between meal courses.
Yes, I think you're right. And I'm sorry if I'm being gross here, but I am not joking when I say the flavor of this is like the flavor of earwax.
It is liquid earwax.
Don't ask me how I know what earwax tastes like,
We
because
all
to
know
my knowledge,
what earwax tastes like.
I've never actually sampled that. But this is what I imagine it would taste like. It is bitter. It is unpleasant.
Oh, sure.
And I don't know, I think it's probably a time-honored tradition of kids to somehow trick their parents into drinking the Beverly unknowingly.
The boys and I, they always were very proud of themselves if they could trick mom into drinking the liquid earwax known as the Beverly. Now, I don't know how many times you actually fell for the joke, but I have a feeling it probably wasn't as many as they thought.
Yeah, you're right.
We're sitting here describing this as liquid earwax. It's awful. It's disgusting. Oh, yes, I'll have some. And yes, we drink it every single time we go. So I don't know what that says about us necessarily, but I guess maybe gluttons for punishment. But the best news is it's also air conditioned in there.
It is. And the samples are unlimited.
Yep.
So there are actually some very good tasting beverages there. And it is a lot of fun to sample all of them, even though we've sampled them before.
Sure.
And maybe have an extra little cup of the ones that you really like.
Yeah, I mean, they do rotate the flavors out. So there are new ones from time to time, but it's a great place to go cool off at Club Cool and have some cool beverages from around the world. I'm not looking at you, Beverly. All right. What's the last item on our list today?
So the last one is another overlooked gem in Animal Kingdom. And this one is the Wilderness Explorer Scavenger Hunt. So you may have noticed when you first walk into the parks, typically it's just over the bridge on Discovery Island. You'll see a little hut there with some cast members dressed as some kind of scouts.
The Wilderness Scouts from the movie Up.
That's right. That's right. They're dressed as the Wilderness Scouts. And so there is a scavenger hunt that kids can do. They'll hand them a little booklet. They'll teach them the Wilderness Explorer pledge.
Yes.
And then the kids can go from various stations throughout Animal Kingdom, and they have to do different activities to get a stamp for their Wilderness Explorer book. And it's a fun way to give younger kids, I think, an incentive to go and look at all of the different areas of Animal Kingdom. The activities are usually a lot of fun and informative.
They are.
And at the end of it, when they come back to the booth and get it all done, they will get a special Wilderness Explorer sticker that they can wear on their shirt or put on a backpack or a water bottle.
With great pride. I remember, I know for a fact that Parker did finish the book. It took 2 trips.
Yes.
We brought the book back with us, and it was very important to him that we brought the book back so he could finish it.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a challenge to get it all done in one trip because there are quite a few stops that you have to make in order to complete the book.
And they're on opposite ends of the park, and it's a pretty long walk around Animal Kingdom.
Yeah, and it's pretty extensive. I mean, they want you to visit all of the areas of the park, and that can take some time. But certainly if you're willing to knock it out over a couple of different trips or even just a couple of different visits within the same trip.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of fun, and the kids are always very proud when they complete it and they get their Wilderness Explorer sticker.
I think that Parker still has his book upstairs.
As he should.
He should be very proud of it. It took a lot of hard work.
It did.
So I want to thank you for joining us today in our family chat on our milestone 10th episode.
Woohoo!
That's right, our 10th episode and our 10th family chat with our top 10 overlooked experiences in Walt Disney World that we think are hidden gems. Can I say 10 one more time?
Go ahead.
10. 10th episode milestone. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up now. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
Pull the lever, Kronk. Wrong lever! Why do we even have that lever?
Thank you so much for joining us for this milestone episode of Mickey, Marvel, and More. Before we sign off today, a big thank you to my wife Laura for joining us in the family chat to discuss the top 10 overlooked hidden gems in Walt Disney World. Be sure to check out our show notes for links to all the stories we talked about today, as well as links to all of our socials. And if you want to be like our new friend of the show, Lauren, and send us an email, feel free to do so at Mickey, Marvel, and More, all one word, @gmail.com. And maybe you'll make the listener mail segment too. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, my name is Mark, and this has been Mickey, Marvel, and More. If you didn't, my name is Uncle Orville, and there's
No privacy at all around this place.
We'll see you next time.